Hey guys, you might not believe this, but I think I may have invented my first gambit. And this is really weird. I think the best thing I can do is show it to you. And I've actually validated this, and it's never been played before at the master level, right? So I've got an opponent who's rated over 1500, or was at the time when we started the game. And we play the Sicilian. Now I'm trying to remember my 4 knights Sicilian theory. So knight c3, knight c6, and then my opponent brings out his other knight, and what I'm supposed to do here is to play e6. But I knew that d5 was like the next move, but I played d5 instead. Okay, and at that point then, my opponent captures on d5, winning a pawn. It's a free pawn. It was attacked twice, defended only by the queen, so I can't recapture. Okay, and let me show you how it goes. So I now play knight to d4, and I think knight takes knight, it's perfectly acceptable. Pawn takes, and then I've got 2 central pawns. My opponent's got doubled central pawns, and I go a pawn down. So that's kind of, that's okay. I think that'll be all right. So now he plays his bishop out to c4, adding a second defender to this, and also the bishop's x-raying down on f7. All perfectly logical. And I decide to bring my bishop out now to g4. Now, what's interesting here is that this knight is there for the taking, because I can capture the knight and the queen can't recapture. Because if queen recaptures, I capture on c2 with a fork on king and rook. Okay, so we have pawn to h3, and I capture on here. In fact, queen can't recapture anyway, because I simply grab it with the knight with check, right? So pawn takes, and now my opponent's got these all messed up, funky pawns, right? It's already got 2 sets of double pawns at this point in the game. I am down 1 pawn. We'll work through the rest of the game because it's pretty cool. Okay, I now play a6. I'm preparing to play b5 and try and kick this guy away. We have d3, and I play b5, bishop retreats. I now push again, kicking the knight. So I'm thinking white's got no chance of castling kingside. That's not going to happen. So he's going to want to put his king over here. So why not take the opportunity with tempo each time, kick the bishop, bishop retreats, and these pawns are now creeping up, and they're going to be right in white's face when he wants to castle. So knight to e4, and now I decide to grab the bishop off. The board is fairly open. We've got all these double pawns, so we're not going to have any kind of gridlock situations anytime soon. And I figure if I can mess up white's pawn structure on the queen side, then his castling options will be limited. And then there is a free pawn on d5, so I decide in the end to grab that. Bishop comes out. Now we've got 2 attackers on this pawn here. So e6 is a discovered defense by the bishop, so we now have 2 defenders on that pawn, right? 2 attackers, 2 defenders. Now c4 attempts to kick the queen. Now I did have the option here of capturing en passant, but then b takes again, and white's actually restored part of his pawn structure. I don't want to give him that luxury, really, but I do capture, but here he recaptures with the knight, yeah? Which is a bit odd, because he could have undoubled his pawns, but queen simply retreats to c6, knight comes round, bishop now comes out. I'm preparing to get my knight out here. I'd like to have put my knight out already, but here if knight takes, g takes, now my pawns are messed up. I don't want that. So bishop there first, preparing for knight f6, and then if he wants to capture, I can recapture with the bishop, not the pawn. Now rook comes across. Now he's got 3 attackers on here, on this pawn, and it's defended only twice. So I bring my knight out anyway. I figure maybe I can swap off my knight for his knight. So we have knight takes pawn. Okay, so now I'm a pawn down again, because remember I gave up a pawn. I gambited it in, true original style. So now white is now up a pawn again. And I did check, right, before I castled, very, very important. I had to check because there's this discovery here by the rook, right? I had to check if I castle that white cannot move the knight and attack either king or another high value piece, like my rook, right? However, he does actually have 2 attacks on the rook, could go here or here, but either way, queen takes knight. So I get out of the discovery. So I was pretty confident I could get away with that move, and that was okay. Now I have b4, and now I decide to improve my knight, centralize my knight. Might take out the bishop, might not, but it's also looking now at this undefended pawn. Bishop comes across, now looking at g7, could be a weakness. Maybe rook's going to come out and look down here as well. Okay, but there is a hanging pawn there, so I decide to grab the hanging pawn. Rook indeed comes across, and I just push f6. All right. Now you need to be careful in these situations that this pawn doesn't end up defended only by its neighbour that's in front of the king. However, this pawn is actually defended by bishop and rook as well right now, so I'm quite happy about that. Knight retreats with a discovery by the rook on the queen. So I just move my queen to d5. Now I'm attacking the undefended bishop. Rook comes down to defend the bishop, and now I can push on e5, because now if the bishop moves, we actually have knight and queen looking at this d3 pawn, which is pretty cool. So I capture with a knight with check, king has to move, and now I grab the rook. Okay, lovely little combination there. You know, it's not that easy to spot, but it's there, you know. So we have check, winning a pawn, and that is also removing the defender of this rook as well. So the king has to move, and then we just simply grab the rook. Knight comes back to attack the queen, and now I see that there's actually another spare pawn here, because I can grab this pawn. If white captures my queen, I capture his queen. Right, then his knight can't grab anything else from there, but I'm still looking at this bishop. So the queen moves, we just trade queens. I move my knight out of the way. I think it's the only safe square for that knight there. Can't go there, can't go there. But he's okay. Now the bishop comes in to a5. And I move my rook across c8 and offer a trade of knights. He doesn't like that idea. But I grab his knight, he grabs my bishop. And now I move my knight to g5. I did also have another safe square here on c3. So this g5 thing causes me a little bit of a hassle, because I realised that either of these pawns could push. Now if this one had pushed, I could just take it off, that'd be alright. But h4 then created a headache for me. So I've got a situation, because I can't go here. But if I go, for example, there, right? Look, white has bishop takes f6, and I can't recapture because my king would be pinned by the rook. So what do? King f7. Now, if pawn wants to take knight, I'll grab the bishop, and that's not too bad. I'm up a rook and a couple of pawns at this point in time. So bishop runs away, knight runs away, h6 just blocks up that bit of the board. I've got my pawns around the king are on dark squares, so the king's quite safe. White's king comes forward, we harass the bishop, and now this, I think, is the last move of the game. So the king moves onto the same file as the bishop and just walks into a rook fork there. So lots of fun, good game. So I've played 3-1-2 this morning, and the one that I lost actually was also against someone just over 1500, and I did actually have the advantage in that, and then blew it with some silly tactical errors. So just goes to show, your opponents will make tactical errors, doesn't matter how strong they are. Anyway, so let's have another look at this gambit thing. Okay, so we've got Sicilian, closed Sicilian with knight to c3, knight to c6, knight to f3, and now the unusual d5 move, right? So check this out, right? e4 has been played 1.3 million times in master games. The Sicilian c5 has been played nearly 600,000 times in response. So more than half, is it more than half? No, not quite half of the games with e4 going to the Sicilian at the master level, and the closed Sicilian. And knight to c6 is really the only response. Then knight to f3 has been played many, many, many times. And how about d5? How far down do we have to go? Did I play d5 next? Yeah, I do play d5 next, and it's only been played like 4 times, but it's not... I can't even see it on this list. It's not even on the list. Which is bizarre. We've got b6, h6, queen a5, etc. Right? f5's on there. It's been played once. But d5, for some reason, not on the list. But apparently it's been played 4 times at the master level. And white has only won one of those 4 games. Which is interesting. The other 3 times have been played in the 21st century. And we've got 2 draws and 1 win for black. So very, very interesting. This doesn't have a name, whatever this is. So we should probably come up with a name. So suggestions in the comments, please, for the name for this new gambit. Now, if I put it into the analysis machine, okay. So at this point, it slightly favours white, which is normal. And after playing this move, it says that move sucks. It's gone from like half to plus 1.4 for white. However, depends how white is going to respond to this. They won't have prepared for this. They won't really know what to do. So in the event, white captures the pawn, and it's gone down slightly. And now knight there, it says actually that sucks almost as bad, right? So apparently the whole gambit line sucks. We've already given up a pawn, and now the bishop out, it says white is still fairly comfortable, and now bishop out to here, and it says white's even better, but it's now plus 2-ish, okay? But it all depends, like we say, on how your opponent responds. So apparently the best move... What? It's saying here that the continuation would be knight takes d4. Which hangs the queen. Bishop takes d1, right? So that's the best line, but no one's going to play that. No one that I play is going to give up their queen for a knight. It just doesn't make sense. Okay, so what happened in the game? We have h3 kicking the bishop away, and now look, it's gone back to equality. Right? Now bishop takes f3. And now, with the best play, which is g takes f3, but doubling pawns and kind of a bit horrible, that's kind of equal. But if they play bishop b5 check as an intermediate in between move, that's -4 now. So that's 4 in black's favour. Or knight e2 to block that attack is also, that's nearly 5 in black's favour. So this is, I think, quite an interesting little line here. So we found it in the game, we've looked at it in the Explorer, it's only been played 4 times, and in actual fact from this point no one's ever taken the pawn. Right, if I capture the pawn there are no games with this position found in the database. Right, nobody has played this opening, and we're on move 4. This is a move 4 in the Sicilian Defence that no one has ever played at the master level. I mean, I've never come across that. Normally it comes up with, oh, this is the, rabid badger gambit or something like that. Yeah? But I think this is pretty cool. I might even explore this, and I might try and turn this into a secret weapon for us all. Yeah, that we can use to humiliate our opponents. That'd be pretty cool. But anyway, yeah. Let me know what you think of this. Have I missed something stupid? I don't know. But looks to me like a new gambit. I'm away now for a couple of days. I'm going to go walking very, very slowly on the beach because I've got a very, very bad foot at the moment. But so please send positive energy and prayers my way for a rapid recovery from my stupid foot. But otherwise, have fun with the whatever it is, Gambit? Answers in the comments, please. All right, guys, thank you for watching. See you in a couple of days.